The incredible Canterbury-Bankstown football team have made it through to the grand final. I think you could have got some fairly long odds about that. Personally, I'm delighted. I think the side is playing attack football, and that, to me, is the name of the game in rugby league. But I've got the Controversy Corner panel with me. They go in against the St George side. Just statistically, Alan Clarkson and Ferris Ashton and Noel Kelly, the two previous encounters these sides have had, both resulted in wins to St George. The first 15-2 at Belmore. The second was won 20-12 at Cogra Oval. Now, I've asked each one of these gentlemen here, using the term very loosely, to get out some highlights through our videotape operators of one player that they feel is going to play a huge part in the game. So, starting the ball rolling with Ferris Ashton.
Well, I'm going to go for St George to win eventually, but I think George Paponis, the Canterbury captain, is going to have a tremendous influence on this game for a number of reasons. Firstly, his leadership. George is the complete general. He's very experienced, and he's certainly his influence in controlling rucks and determining the Canterbury efforts on the field is going to be paramount. Secondly, his ball-winning ability. George is, of course, the test hooker, and with these two new props he's got, Greg Cook and Peter Smith, George has probably got the best engine room at the present time going around. Also, George has got this ability to be able to control the rucks. Very hard for the sides to get through, and they've proved to try and penetrate the Canterbury defence down the middle. And lastly, and also very importantly, George has got this ability to force his way over for tries and get that try which Canterbury need desperately. And if he's allowed to do this, they're going to be right in it. But I think if George has a big game, I think Canterbury are right in it. If George doesn't, well, I think St George will kill him.
Kill him?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this side knows the meaning of the word defeat. There you are. Alan Clarkson, you came up with this player.
Yes, well, for much the same reason as Ferris has just outlined, only with the other team. I think Stephen Edge is going to have a major influence on this game. Edge came back just a few weeks ago, and since he's been back, St George have enjoyed possession of the scrum, and these days I believe the possession is really the name of the game. Stephen won the scrums 14-7 against Parramatta, and St George beat Parramatta. If he can win the scrums, I feel that St George could just about win this. But the only thing that really concerns me, or I think one of the major problems facing St George, is the fact that they've played 2 games in a month, and the last game was 2 weeks ago. And it does seem ridiculous that a team that has played 22 hard premiership rounds can lose a slight edge in match fitness. And this could happen. I think Bath will probably train them every day this week to make sure that they're physically fit and ready for this game, because they've got the game of their lives on their hands. I admire the Canterbury team. I think they're a great little team, but I think St George may just have a slight edge on them on Saturday.
You could 100 to 1 about Canterbury making the final when they last played Manly.
So you could 1,000 to 1. What was it, 23-12 or 11 or
23 to 11,
23 to 11.
You're going to have to wait till last, because I'm going to take second last spot for a change. I'm fed up with trolling you around.
Well, that's all right, Rick.
Okay. Don't get angry about it. Now then, I go for the Canterbury side. I've become a complete Bulldogs supporter. I just admire the method, the way they've gone about their job. But the man, obviously, I don't think anyone would need to be a clairvoyant to know that I believe that this little fella, Steve Mortimer, is going to play an enormous part in the game. Why wouldn't he? With acceleration that would make a Maserati look a little bit slothful. He's got that incredible ability just to go zap and through. I don't suspect he's the fastest man in the world over 110 yards or 100 metres dash, but over 30 yards, he's damn near like bolt lightning. There's only one player on the St George side, I believe, that can foot it with him, and that's Steve Morris, his exact opponent in the halfback. Brennan may be quicker over the long haul. We won't argue about that, because there aren't many tries scored over longer distances than 30 or 40 yards anyway. There is one factor that Clarkson has brought out, which I feel is a very, very significant one. I genuinely believe, Alan, that the side that has the break has the disadvantage. I can't concede that the break is good for a team. So long as a team plays weekly, that is W-E-E-K-L-Y, and comes up with a no injury situation, they have a major advantage in my view. But St George aren't to be negated, because they've got Reddy, Brennan and Morris, all quality players, very much top quality players. But I go for Canterbury, and I think that they're going to make history in this 1979. Now, Noel Kelly, your turn.
Well, thanks, Rex. Well, that's a pretty hard act to follow, really, because we've sorted it all out there and we've come up with the hooker and the halfback on both sides that are going to create some sort of a disturbance out there in the grand final. Personally, I go for Canterbury-Bankstown. I think that their last 3 wins, they've made each and every side they've played, they've made their defence look very ordinary by throwing the ball about. And what used to be stone-like defence, well, it's just fell to pieces at the hands of Canterbury. Well, I think that Steve Morris, the little guy with the ball there, just as much as Steve Mortimer is going to go on and create a lot of openings and a lot of trouble for the opposition, so is this fella, because this is definitely the year for the halfback. And when you look at the speed of this little chap here, Steve Morris, and the speed of Steve Mortimer, well, then it's going to be a game and a half. I think if Canterbury take their eyes off Morris and Reddy, they're in for for some sort of trouble. And when you look at the blistering speed of these two halves, in a year like we've had in football, anything can happen on the day. But I think that like Mortimer can change a defeat into a win, so can Steve Morrison. But I do think that Canterbury-Bankstown will go on and win the competition this year.
We should have a preview on the Friday. Morris versus Mortimer and Paponis versus Edge.
Of course, the injury situation, but Alan, you were in the dressing room and Canterbury are fairly sanguine about their chances.
They're sure that everyone will be okay.
Young Cook had a split gum here, which looked a little bit nasty, but
and
that's going to be all right.
And his shoulder, he came off with his shoulder, but it didn't pop.
Without meaning to demean any of the injured Canterbury players, but what a tremendous transformation has come over the Canterbury pack with Smith, Cook, Casillas, Fuchs, these young ones.
And 14 tries in their last 3 games.
Yes.
That is incredible, all in final football. Well, let me just ask one word to each one of you so we clarify it. Alan Clarkson?
I think St George providing that Edge can
Get
win
off the
ball.
fence, Alan Clarkson.
I think St George providing Edge can win the ball.
He's done it again. Ferris?
St George, the big ones.
No?
Canterbury-Bankstown.
Canterbury-Bankstown, so we're 2-2. It's going to be an incredible week's football, and don't forget to keep on Channel 7 because we'll be bringing you up to date on all the things we're doing in the way of telecasts, etc. Grand final tickets are still available at the headquarters, and you can get them also from the leagues clubs. Hope you've enjoyed this edition of Controversy Corner, a special one. We're going off now. Keep watching 7 National Sports.
Come on, big men, run. Come on, throw the ball. You're playing the greatest game of all. Come on, big men, run. Come on, throw the ball. You're playing the greatest game of all. If you want to see men brave, to see men standing tall, come and see the greatest game of all.